Hey, welcome to the Eating Enlightenment Journal course to stop binge eating and to learn intuitive eating. I'm going to be giving a brief overview of who this is for and a brief overview of the three phases, the three modalities that we'll use to start learning intuitive eating. The modalities we'll use when things get tough, when things get messy, and then we'll also get into some practical tips as well to get started. So I'm Jared, and I'm the founder of Eating Enlightenment, and my role here is not to tell you what to do, but to help you go on a journey of self-discovery. So we're going to be asking why a lot. We're going to be coming from your experiences, and you won't find me really telling you what to eat, how much, etc. This is more about you, your relationship to food, and studying your cravings so that you get to the bottom of what's holding you back from intuitive eating. A lot of the times people, they try to eat intuitively, but principle number 3 might get them when you let go of the food rules. That can be terrifying. When you try to cope with food when you try to cope with emotions without turning to food, maybe that happens for a little bit and then you fall off the wagon. Oftentimes, the core problem that inspiring intuitive eaters want is this confusion about how to actually be intuitive in a way that doesn't fall off the rails, that doesn't lead to self-sabotage and going crazy, and then needing even more food rules. So if you've ever tried to let go of food rules or to stop when full and eat when hungry, or you just want to learn a more peaceful way of eating and it seems like you can't, this course is for you. What we're going to be doing is a little bit different than what you might typically see out there. Our end goal is intuitive eating, all right? We're going to be drawing on this a lot. Intuitive eating, it's great. Now, when you first begin, here's where we get into the overview of the course. We're actually going to be starting out with a simple cognitive behavioral therapy approach to journaling. So, what is cognitive behavioral therapy? What is intuitive eating? Let's continue exploring this brief overview. Cognitive behavioral therapy is where you study your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. There's a link between your mind, body, and how you act. So, on a simple level, how you combine cognitive behavioral therapy and intuitive eating is you start with hunger. Because hunger is principle number 2 of intuitive eating. So in your journal, when you first start, you're going to start journaling about the basic things of intuitive eating, the easy ones, the ones that are pretty easy to journal about: hunger, fullness, satisfaction. You might even incorporate a little bit of principle 10 where you journal about what you're eating, protein, if you're satisfied. So I hope you see basically how we combine cognitive behavioral therapy and intuitive eating, and that's phase 1. So on the journey to becoming an intuitive eater, where you can go out with your friends, where you don't have to follow a meal plan or have this constant counting in your head, and you also don't need to worry about binging because you have this internal trust. If that's the goal, we start off with journaling about the basics: hunger, satisfaction, fullness. Start by journaling about food. In particular, with the cognitive behavioral side, bringing mindfulness to your thoughts and behaviors around food. So this brief overview, that's phase 1, okay? But then we get into the real meat. Food rules, unconditional eating, the internal conflicts. And how does this tie into the phase 2, which is internal family systems? Very briefly, you start off journaling, CBT, basics, start journaling about hungry, start studying. You will come across cues and triggers. Cues and triggers are the bridge where you transition from journaling about the easy stuff of intuitive eating and you start to journal about the hard stuff of intuitive eating. The hard stuff is food rules. The hard stuff is these internal conflicts. Hard stuff is the thoughts that come up, the diet voice, the rebel voice, these different voices that come up that are in conflict with each other. Just have one more bite. No, don't have one more bite. You deserve a treat. You know, these different battles that happen internally. That's where intuitive eating gets messy, and that's where a lot of people, they start off with the easy part and it goes well. They're listening to hunger and so forth, and that's nice, but then they get to the hard part and it's scary. And so this second step of the program, of this journaling approach, is going to really be about how to safely navigate these internal dynamics. It's very, very important. This work can be terrifying. I think you know what I'm talking about. There's something under the surface that's scary, that is fear-inducing, that is you want to run away from, your shadow, we'll say. Step 2 is learning how to safely heal the shadow. Heal the inner child underneath the shadow. Internal family systems presents a remarkable way of working with your protectors, firefighters, and exiles in a simple model that translates beautifully into food. And it all starts with your cues and triggers. So, let me recap very briefly before we end this video. And then we'll end this video with a practical step to get started right now. To recap, our goal is intuitive eating. There's 10 principles of intuitive eating. We start with the 5 easy principles, the 4 or 5 easy principles. We start journaling with them in a cognitive behavioral therapy format. Very simple, very effective. You will become better at food. You will make wiser, eating decisions right away. You'll see progress right away. But things will not be perfect. You will binge. You will emotionally eat. And if you're not willing to go through some tough times, this course is not for you. Because when we start to look at cues and triggers, right? So if you're journaling and then you have a binge or emotional eating or something like this, our goal is to look at what triggered it, what happened, what led up to it, what triggered it, what was that moment. And if you think about like a ball of yarn, once you get one string, you can unpeel a whole ball of yarn. Or if you have kids, they have their video system controllers and all the wires are tangled up. And once you get one thread, you can sort of unravel the whole ball of yarn. So our goal in this first step is to look for cues and triggers, because they are trailheads that lead us to these dynamics that can be relieved through awareness, mindful eating, internal family systems, in a nutshell, working with this model, healing the inner child, healing the pain within. So you're gonna eat. And if you can't face the fact that this course will not take away your binging and emotional eating right away, this course is not for you. When you get into these dynamics, which we'll start covering in lesson 3 of the course, it's going to be a little messy. It's going to be a little chaotic. It's going to be a little ambiguous. It'll take some time. If this is sounding scary to you, I want to warn you ahead of time. It is a little scary. And that's why most people really struggle with intuitive eating, to actually do it. But this course, we're going to teach you some new tools that will help you build a foundation and ultimately be able to safely connect with all parts of yourself. Ultimately be able to see and witness the inner child and heal the deepest core emotional pain that oftentimes has been present in the background of your life for a very long time. So I'm inviting you to go on this journey where you start to journal and you discover what triggers you. And as you discover what triggers you, you understand this emotional world underneath. The protectors, the firefighters, the exiles, and how they relate. And as you understand this is language you will learn in this course. You will understand how to heal the inner child, to see the inner child. Your journaling will switch. Around when you start getting into the cues and triggers, you won't need to journal as much. It'll be more just a little bit of a, every now and then type of journaling. In the beginning, you want to journal frequently. In the beginning, you want to really practice journaling, and so that you can catch your hunger and satisfaction and so forth. But then once you start identifying some cues and triggers, you can back off the journaling. No one is going to journal forever. So I know some people are worried about that. Don't need to journal forever. And then you'll get into the internal family systems where you'll start to journal about these different thoughts and how they relate to each other. And you'll really uncover their purpose, how every part of you is trying to help you be good. Every part is good. There's nothing to fear. And through this unwinding, unraveling, this discovering of this inner resourcing you have within you, your connection to yourself, you can then do intuitive eating. You can sort through the food rules. You can sort through the complex emotions around food, the body image and shame that comes up. You'll relate to it differently. You'll understand why it's there and the purpose it has, and the core stumbling blocks that block people from intuitive eating, the unconditional eating, the food rules, and all this other stuff will finally be unlocked. So this course is not going to take away all your binging or all your problems. It really ain't. It's going to be tough. I'll ask you to journal. It'll be upsetting when you get triggered. It'll be ambiguous when you start to uncover your cues and triggers and start hearing the voice, and it'll be a bit confusing. But this is an opportunity to be guided through this experience where you will learn new models, skills, and tools that you've never heard of before in a unique way where it's all synthesized together so that you can navigate these complex emotional subconscious waters that holds you back from intuitive eating. I found that over the years, a lot of times people miss the foundational skills of CBT and intuitive eating, and they try to skip to the deep stuff. I've also found that sometimes people, they just stick with the foundational skills of intuitive eating. They never get to the deep stuff. So this approach will give you the foundation of mindfulness and hunger and food satisfaction so that you can navigate these inner waters. You're in a safe position, you have a foundation, and also give you the skills and training how to safely navigate your inner world, childhood, trauma, all this different stuff that might come up. We're going to give you tools on how to do that. At the end, you'll have this confidence to actually go through those emotional waters and actually be an intuitive eater and actually have some freedom. So if that is you, if you want to go along for the ride, well, you're in the right place. So how do you get started? It's real simple. We have to study our cravings. We have to study your relationship to food. Intuitive eating, hunger. If you binge or emotionally eat, what I want you to do is try to journal ahead of time. Try to journal before. It's okay if you journal after. No worries if you journal after. Trust me, this is tough. I just want you to journal about a binge. Don't try to have a binge. Just maybe one comes up, or a moment with food that was stressful. In the beginning, we are just noticing thoughts, body, and behavior. The CBT, right? So the body. Were you hungry? Do you see how intuitive eating and cognitive behavioral therapy come in the beginning? They combine in the beginning. Were you hungry? What was that like? Now, you can also see some other information in this course packet, this video down below, that will teach you more about hunger and how to journal. So there are extra resources down below, but I think you got the basic point. If you have any questions, let me know. Namaste.